Hiya, welcome to day 13 of the Dry Jam Plan. Today I want to talk about sugar. Now, this became a real issue for me because when we stop drinking, we often crave something else. And sugar gives us that dopamine hit, which alcohol also gives us. So when I was always proud of the fact that I didn't have a sweet tooth. Obviously the alcohol was giving me that sugary hit. And it wasn't really until I decided to take a break from drinking that I realized that I craved sugar. Plus, the other thing was, whenever I drank wine, usually what I did is I usually grabbed a large bar of chocolate from the supermarket shelf at the same time as I grabbed my beers and my wine. So I associated drinking with eating sugary foods. Or it's the infamous pizza, kebab, chips. It's that carbohydrates, which of course are complex sugars. So if you are worried about your sugar consumption and you're maybe hitting the sweets a little too often than you'd like, then let yourself off the hook. You know, it's amazing. We are halfway through January. So you've gone a whole 2 weeks or more without alcohol. So if you have managed to ditch the alcohol for halfway through January, then I think you ought to let yourself off the hook with some sugar. And it will all balance out in the end. You know, the thing is with lots of sugar, it does have certain effects on our body, but it can certainly deal with it and it levels out over time. Now, obviously, if you're diabetic and you're listening to this, then you have to be careful. And if your sugar consumption has gone up or your carb intake has gone up, then make sure that you're speaking to your GP or your diabetic nurse and compensating for that. But everybody else that doesn't have any issues around diabetes, then it does level itself out. And all our body's doing is it's just rewarding us still. We still have that reward pathway. We still have the want. So when we give up alcohol, the nearest thing is sugary foods. So give yourself a break. You know, we've got into that habitual habit of having something that gives us that pleasurable hit. And when we're denying ourselves alcohol, in which case we are in January, then it's going to look for alternatives and it will look for sugar. If you used alcohol like I did for stress and relaxation, then that comfort eating and that comfort food for me was biscuits and cake and sugary foods. We can always turn to fruit, of course, but it sometimes doesn't always hit the spot. So let yourself off. If you want that cake or you want to have some sugary snacks in the evening when you would normally have your glass of wine or whatever you are not having at the minute, then do take that on board and just give yourself a break. Excuse me. Heavy drinking can lead to nutrition deficiency as well, which means we can crave sugar. Our gut microbiome is affected by the calorific side of alcohol. And as we know, sugar is not good for our gut biome. It actually feeds the bad bacteria, and we need to put lots of fiber, lots of plants in there with fiber. That's like exercise for our tummy. Fiber is, and that helps grow the good bacteria and fight off the bad bacteria. So there's a lot of rebalancing going on during January. And of course, we've got to think about when we're feeling fed up. You know, again, if we're feeling down in the dumps, we would often reach for, well, I know I certainly would often reach for a drink. And again, we're probably, we're not having alcohol at the minute. So what are we going to reach for? When our mood swings, are in flow, or we're feeling sad, or we've had a hard day at work, we're going to go for that sugary snack. And that's okay. That's okay. So don't beat yourself up. Our calorie intake changes when we are no longer putting alcohol in our bodies. There's a reduction in calorie intake because alcohol is about 650 calories a bottle on average, which is quite a lot of calories, really. So our body is used to taking on board all these calories and these high sugar calories as well. So it's got to balance itself out, and it's got to get its energy from somewhere. So it influences our blood sugar levels. And also we've got to think about our liver. Our liver helps maintain our blood glucose. So when we were drinking, it was the massive filter in our body is our liver. And, it was filtering out the alcohol. And now when we stop drinking, the liver's got an opportunity to recover, which, improves the capacity of maintaining our blood sugar instead of our blood sugar dropping, which what happens is when we drink, our pancreas releases the insulin to counteract the sugar in the alcohol, and then obviously our liver filters all that through in the processes, getting rid of the toxin from the alcohol. So the liver is now adapting to less sugar, not having to deal with it. So it's got to sort itself out and help maintain our blood glucose too. And we do get cravings for sugary foods, and that's okay. It's all right to have cravings. As I said, our gut microbiome is massively affected. And what's going to happen is now we're not drinking and we're not putting in the alcohol. Again, the nutrient absorption of our tummy will be better. Even if you're putting that sugary food in for the time being, it's only going to be short term. So I would rather myself be putting some sugar inside me each evening for a short time, rather than putting the toxic, effects that the alcohol gives us, which, the liver has a hard time processing and sort of gives preference to any other thing that it's doing at that time. As soon as we take alcohol on board, it stops everything else, and it needs to get the toxin, the alcohol, which we know is the ethanol, out of our bodies, and it processes that. So you're being gentler to your liver, even though you're, giving it extra sugar for it to deal with, then it will get better over time. So don't worry too much if your sugar intake or your carb intake and you've been craving. Again, it's that dopamine hit that we're getting because it has the same effect on our brain as alcohol. So that's really all I want to say about sugar today, is don't give yourself a hard time. If you want that piece of cake, you want those biscuits, things will taper off. And if you're going back to drinking in February, then, you'll have your hit where sugar's concerned, and your treats and your need for sugar will settle down. But if you're going through into February and you are still going to be not drinking, then just be mindful around your sugar intake, and look for some replacements. I love medjool dates, and dates are very low on the glycemic index. They've got a lot of fibre in them, and the energy it takes to break down the fibre in your tummy, actually the energy is used from the sugar in the dates. So look for some alternatives. And if you love dates but only have a couple, they have an interesting effect on you, dates. You'll be running to the loo. But look for that alternative, and things will balance out. So hang in there, and well done. We're halfway through the month. That is absolutely amazing. So fantastic. And I'll chat again tomorrow. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.